What's up, fam? Dr. O here, and I just wanted to take the time to shout out Michael Steele for the manner in which he challenged Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski last week on his show. Look, we need people who are going to be challenging some of this nonsense that's out there. And it was very interesting that Joe was trying to deny the fact that they were encouraging civility and the like, because as Michael Steele said, those were his words. And look, we're not looking for people to be argumentative or belligerent, but Michael Steele makes a real point that is one of the reasons why many people have stopped watching Morning Joe, was the fact that this idea of that and even if Joe Scarborough feels like this is not what he's conveying, this is the message that many of us are receiving. This idea that, and it's not just him, it's many of his guests as well who are on as well as regular panelists as well, this idea that we have to be civil to the Trump administration and MAGA, and that we have to do a better job of listening to them, and we have to do a better job of understanding them. And Michael Steele's point was very simple. It's like, what is their obligation? And from what I would watch on Morning Joe, I don't see that being talked about at all or enough from Joe or Mika. This idea that everybody has to basically kowtow to them. Everybody has to basically try to understand MAGA. Now, Joe's going to say, I'm not saying kowtow. I'm talking about be civil, have conversations, but they are not doing that. And I don't hear the MAGA people being called out. They are the ones that don't even believe in the right of many of us to exist. I see Rufo was talking about online earlier this week about we should get rid of sign language interpreters. We don't need them. Like, what's the point? And like, they're coming after every single group. Where's the civility conversation for that? Where's the civility conversation for the Scott Jennings of the world, right? Who don't give a damn about talking to any of us. So I'm glad not only that Michael Steele did that, but Michael Steele did that on the Morning Joe show, because quite honestly, a lot of voices who are on his show may have little disagreements here and there, but I haven't seen them when I was watching. I haven't fully seen them challenge this idea. You want to go and interview Trump, okay, but do you have to put it in a sense where you got to lecture us about how we need to start learning how to have civil conversations? We know how to have civil conversations in our society, but we also know how to have them when people actually want to have dialogue with us as well. And I feel like Morning Joe should do a better job of calling that out. Yes, I've seen Morning Joe critique, Trump policies and hex stuff and so on and so forth, but the sheer inhumanity of things is just not being called out. And quite honestly, some of the guests who are there don't really do that. So for Michael Steele to do that in that platform, it was really important. And as you saw, Joe got dismissive and was talking about, oh, you're really going to do good on X and Blue Sky and all of that. That was disrespectful. Because of the fact of the matter is, Michael Steele said he's using your terms, Joe. He's using your language. And I don't get caught up in the fact that, viewership for MSNBC shows is down. Whenever a candidate who you want to win loses an election, that network's going to lose views. Like, if people look at MSNBC as liberal, then liberal networks are going to lose views. If Kamala Harris won, I can guarantee you that Fox News ratings and other networks, well, Fox ratings, they're not a news network, other ratings would have gone down as well. That's part of what happens, right? So we understand that. But the fact of the matter is that many of us who still watch some of these shows on these networks, we're looking for shows that are going to be the voice, not of acquiescence, not of we have to be civil with people who don't care about us, but the voice of resistance. And we can resist in a civil manner. Like, nobody's calling for an insurrection. Nobody's calling people to be shot or drugged or put in chokeholds or anything like that. We're talking about resistance, like resisting the Trump agenda. And your talk, Joe Scarborough, about we need to, go and meet to better understand. There's nothing about Trump you don't understand already. There's nothing about MAGA that you don't understand already. And the fact of the matter is that rather than trying to shut down people who challenge you, and maybe you feel like you did it in a civil way, I think it's important to embrace the critique, because I guarantee you that Michael Steele was speaking for a lot of us who are regular viewers of your show. And I know for me, as somebody who was a regular viewer of your show, I didn't always agree with everything, but I watched for different perspectives. I watched for different ideas. I watched for so much of the history that you would provide, Joe and Mika and so many other people who were guests, all of the history and knowledge. I like to soak that up. I don't have a problem with listening to people of different opinions, but I do have a problem with people who say things in condescending manners and lecture me about trying to be understanding of somebody who doesn't believe in my right to exist, or the right for my people in my community to exist, or people whose communities I stand up for, be it LGBTQ, disability community, people, poor, marginalized people, whoever we're talking about, I stand with them as well. And this administration doesn't care about them in any way, shape, or form. And it needs to be more attention towards that. And it needs to be more vocal attention towards that. And when you're just going to berate us, belittle us, and then talk about how it's all justified to fly down to Mar-a-Lago, you could have done that joint on Zoom, like for real. You didn't have to go down there. You know what I'm saying? It's like, when you do those types of things, then you're going to get people who feel like Michael Steele. And the fact of the matter is, there are more people who need to speak up about that, because you have an incredible platform, Joe Scarborough. But to sit here and talk about the importance of being civil and then disrespect Michael Steele like that, and then to talk about being civil and then berate us about how we need to engage MAGA when MAGA doesn't care about us. Look, I'm all about finding common ground. I'm all about having what Glenn Singleton calls the courageous conversations. But when people are actively trying to demean my existence, they're not ready for a conversation with me. And many of us don't feel like we are the ones capable of doing the work, or don't want to be the ones to do that work to try to bring them to the table. If you feel like that's a position that you can be in, Joe Scarborough, as a Republican or a former Republican, but definitely a conservative, make those strides to bring those folks to the table. Make those strides to bring the MAGA folks to the table who really want to work towards creating a community where everybody can be celebrated and tolerated. But we know that they don't want to do that. When you can bring those folks to the table, we're here for that conversation. But when these guys are trying to get rid of a whole community, like transgender people and the like, we can't be here for that. We have to fight that. We have to fight that. And there's nothing to talk about as it relates to that. People can have different opinions about things like gay marriage and other type of stuff. But when y'all are really, I mean like MAGA type people, are really actually trying to get rid of people, entire populations, deny people care, deny people the right to exist, then that's got to be fought. And we're coming up on Dr. King's Day in a couple of days. And, rather than just a couple of quotations and some nice little videos of Dr. King, let's really talk about that spirit of justice, because I don't know what Dr. King would have thought about transgender people, but I know that Dr. King would have fought for their right to exist and to be here on this planet and to be able to live as human beings. So if we're going to go towards that holiday, let's talk about that, and let's be serious about that, and let's encourage those civil conversations, and let's call people out who don't really want to be civil in any way, shape, or form. Stop putting the onus on us. I know onus spells out on us. I talk about it all the time, but you need to put more effort and energy in bringing those MAGA folks to the table. Good luck with that, though, because we know that they don't want to be there. And I'm not talking about all Republicans. I'm not talking about all conservatives. I'm talking about the MAGA people. Call them out. Bring them to the table about civility. But until then, kudos. I don't know if he'll be back on my Morning Joe, Michael Steele, but kudos to you for speaking for what many of us were feeling as well. Peace.